Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Sisay.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo nga andil mahalis. Hello? Ano lay wahal?
Bisul mo fine.
What?
Bisul mo fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
It's Thursday, the 16th of October, 2025, and on West Coast Radio, you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. Joining me now is Lare M. Sisay, a senior voice from the United Democratic Party, UDP, here to share his personal perspectives on two pressing national issues. The IMF's recently concluded review mission to the Gambia, and, of course, the blistering audit reports covering government finances from 2021 to 2023. Larry, welcome back to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Thank you, Peter.
I see you looking around.
It's nice. People, you have to show this place to others. You lead and they follow.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
It's a very nice studio.
The IMF
recently
conducted, or rather commended the Gambia for steady progress in its economic reform agenda. Do you agree with this assessment?
Yes and no.
Let's start with the yes.
Yes.
It's good to start the day positively.
Yes. I mean, in some areas, the economy is doing well. But the IMF, I've been telling you and your listeners for some time now, I've been on the other side of the equation, being on the side of the development partners. And I know how they conduct these things. The positives has to come out in terms of them saying the economy is doing well, inflation is lowering, unemployment is on track to be lowered, and issues like that. They have to say those things.
Even if they don't exist?
No, they exist, but they have to be that nice to their hosts. I'm saying there are protocols to be followed. And the IMF usually are very good at following those protocols. For me, those things aside, because when they say inflation is lowering, I don't feel inflation being lowering when I go to the market. And I don't think most of your listeners feel the same way when they go to the marketplace. Unemployment, when you ask the young people, a large swath of them are unemployed. For me, what struck me about this particular review mission are three things. The IMF saying the central bank should prioritize its core mandate. And what are those core mandates? Monetary policy, managing the country's economy, managing inflation. Those core mandates of a central bank is what they're saying. You should focus on that. The question we need to ask is, why are they asking the central bank to focus on its core mandate? Has it veered off its core mandate for the IMF to publicly say, go back to your core mandate? And there are reasons for them to say that. Time allowed,
sure.
we will delve into those things.
We have a whole hour.
The other thing that struck me about their press conference is the Gambia government requesting two waivers. Waiver number one, to waive one of the non-performance criteria for the government. That's waiver number one. Waiver number two, to modify performance criteria for financing assurance review, finance assurance review. Question is, why would the government want the IMF to waive these two key aspects of the ECF? Now, what is the ECF? Is the facility that the IMF uses to help least developed countries that have serious balance of payments problems.
ECF is what? Extended Credit Facility?
Facility, yes.
Okay.
It's designed to help countries that have balance of payments issues. It's usually short to mid-term. And then they have this other facility called the Resilience Sustainability Facility. Mm-hmm. That is a much longer term facility than the ECF. And Gambia, being a low-lying coastal country, needs to have those resources to help us adapt to climate change, sort of. Now, the ECF, you recall in one of my appearances, I said, when this government talks to us in terms of the budget, the minister presenting the budget, other government officials talking to us as taxpayers, they don't necessarily talk to us anymore about balance of payments and terms of trade. These are key economic indicators that this particular government does not talk about. I remember in Jawara's time, and in the first phase of Yahya Jammeh's government, they used to pay particular attention to inform us of our balance of payments issues. And they also take time to tell us extensively our terms of trade. Now, my issue is, you don't talk to us about balance of payments.
Why do you think they're not talking to us about balance?
Because
of payment issues?
the scenario, in my view, is not favorable. This is why we have the ECF. If the balance of payments are correct, if the balance of payments are on track, there will be no need for an ECF, would there? But this government will say, oh, we got ECF, it's 165 million for a certain period of time. And we are supposed to clap for them to say, well done, Mr. Government, you've done well, you got an ECF. What is behind that ECF is, for me, what really Gambians ought to understand. It is to support countries with balance of payments problems. The terms of trade would actually tell us what Gambia's current accounts are in terms of our trade with other foreign countries. Now, what is Gambia trading on today? Just for conversation's sake. And I want your listeners to also join in this conversation. What it is that Gambia is trading, let's say, with Senegal, that we could make a profit out of. What is it that the Gambia is trading with the rest of the ECOWAS sub-region to have an impact on our balance of trade, on our terms of trade? I even dare to say our terms of trade might be in the negative. And that is why they don't talk about these issues that much. Now, the central bank saying, the IMF saying to the central bank, go back to your core mandate, for me strikes at two issues that happened in the economy in the last few months to a year. One is the currency swap. You remember we said here that the African Import-Export Bank and the central bank signed an agreement for a currency swap of $75 million in order to finance 2,000 kilometers of roads for the NRA. Now, that is not a core function of the central bank.
It's not.
It is not. The central bank does not do that. The other issue that I want to raise is this issue of, I said here that they dished out $100 million from our strategic foreign reserves to 10 companies. It happens to be 200 million. Not
double the amount you stated.
Yes, double the amount that and it explains a lot, because when I said 100 million given to 10 companies, and I can name those companies, but I don't think you're going to be on fire to name those companies. They kept quiet. They didn't respond to that up to now. Now we are discovering it's actually 200 million.
Discovering thanks to IMF, is it?
No. The IMF has not said anything about that.
So how did you discover?
We do research. We do research, and we have established that it's not 100 million. It's 200 million US dollars.
Where do you look in that other researchers don't?
I'm not going to tell you my my research methodologies. Okay. But what I will tell you though is that for me, when we said 100 million, I expected the government to respond, to say no, it's not 100 million. No, we didn't give that to 10 private companies. And that's precisely what the IMF is saying. Those things that the market should handle in terms of commercial bank facilitation of economic development should be left to the private sector. You focus on your core mandate of managing the money and also making sure that interest rates are stable enough to guarantee economic growth. And you manage the dalasi.
But what if the Central Bank of the Gambia has the $200 million when the commercial banks collectively cannot put together $200 million? Should the Central Bank just, stand aside and say, well, this is not our business, we shouldn't go in there? Surely.
Why would the commercial banks not be able to raise the money to loan to those 10 companies? See, the principle is those are private sector activities. And yes, the government ought to help in private sector development facilities. But the government cannot do that through the central bank. And I think that's the essence of what the IMF is saying. It can be done, but not the central bank dishing out 200 million. Okay. The third thing the IMF raised in their press conference was that they are concerned about the depreciation of the dalasi. And for me, that's a key issue, because the depreciation of the dalasi has a correlation with what I pay for goods and services.
Sure, of course.
At the marketplace. So when the dalasi depreciates, chances are that it is going to spike in inflation. So these are the things that the IMF is saying the central bank should focus on, not dishing out money to private sector companies. They are also saying the bank should avoid the possibility of a foreign exchange shortage. And you see on social media now, people are complaining they can't access Forex. I don't know whether there is a shortage or not, but it stood out that the IMF is saying we need to avoid a foreign exchange shortage in the economy. Now they are also saying we are in the current economic situation because of the additional pressures for spending. Additional pressures for spending. And this is where it links with the National Audit Office's reports. When you look at those reports, there is reckless spending.
Okay, we'll get to that.
But they are saying, we need to also adjust our budgeted expenditures to compensate for payments in 2025. Meaning, you are not up to date on your payments. You need to adjust them so that you can meet those payment criteria in 2025. Now, Peter, the penultimate question. The IMF says the Gambia should actually operationalize the Anti-Corruption Commission. I find that unprecedented that the IMF would publicly say that in a setting of a press conference.
Why?
Well, basically, isn't it a passive way of saying there is corruption? I think it's a passive way of saying there is corruption. And when you look at the genesis of the Anti-Corruption Commission, I think it was accented to by the president February last year. They have nominated anti-corruption commissioners. It's within the system, but the IMF is saying operationalize it.
When you say it's within the system, what do you mean?
I think it's at Parliament, at the level of Parliament
Okay.
for their vetting.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the corruption side, like I said, the act was passed by Parliament in February 2024, if I recall properly. It was accented to, but it has not been operationalized. So they are saying, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
It needs to happen. Now,
yes, I wanted to ask about the resilience and sustainability fund, which is for facility, for climate adaptation.
Yeah.
How relevant is this to our development, the development of the Gambia?
It is relevant. When you look at the Gambia as a coastline, most of the coastline on the Atlantic Ocean, from the North Atlantic Ocean going to the South Atlantic Ocean, most of the countries on those coastlines have areas that are sinking because of sea level rise. So it's important to integrate climate change adaptation into our development frameworks so that we can not just do mitigation of the sinking and the effects of climate change. We can also do some adaptation work. So this is relevant, and they've given the Gambia 46.65 million SDRs. I don't know how much that is in US dollars today, but it should be more than $100 million US dollars for the RSF. They are also saying there is weak, this I have to because I quoted it, weak financial performance due to unbudgeted spending pressures. Weak financial performance due to unbudgeted spending pressures. Meaning, again, links to the audit reports, you are spending money that you don't have. I think that's what this means. Weak fiscal performance due to unbudgeted spending pressures. When something like 1 million given to that lady Mama Jabi, when it was announced, they said the president gave 1 million, but it came from the national budget. Our taxpayers' money was given to that woman as a reward for being vocal on an issue, a tragic issue that affects 2 police officers who lost their lives, and the taxpayer actually provided that 1 million, and it has been highlighted by the auditors. Now finally they are saying the economic outlook is subject to large downside risk. The economic outlook is subject to large downside risks.
What does that language mean?
Yes, I looked at the ISAF.
Yes.
And I also looked at the RSF. Basically what they are saying is we are not as insulated against exogenous and endogenous shocks to the economy. Insulating yourself to the endogenous economic shocks, meaning what is happening in the global economy out there needs to be tracked so that you can actually build resilience on them. When they hit you, you can manage those risks. The domestic or endogenous shocks to the economy are those issues that percolate from the country's economic activities domestically, meaning those domestic things that we should be resilient against in terms of managing the risks that they pose to the economy. And some of those happen to be these forex issues on budgeted expenditures and so. Those are local issues that the IMF says we should be mindful for. Now, when you look at the composite of what the IMF was saying, basically they are saying we are on track, and that is the language most people latch onto, not just the government. We are on track, or you are on track. But if you are on track, that means you were off track.
Okay.
If you are on track, that means you are off track. And if you are on track, that means you are getting there, but you haven't gotten there yet. And those are the nuances that politicians and government officials tend to latch on to say, no, but we are doing well because the IMF says we are on track. But
okay. So what are the social and political implications of this mixed outlook presented by the IMF, do you think?
For me, I think most of the ramifications you are feeling at the marketplace. I am feeling at the marketplace. Most of your listeners and viewers are feeling at the marketplace, meaning the high cost of living, the rate of inflation, the potential shortage of foreign exchange, and also the sectors that actually are the anchors of the economy, like agriculture, also suffer from these things. Now, if you go to the provinces, people are starting to harvest, but the harvesting, depending on the region, depends on what you are growing, and these are some of the downside effects of some of the risks that the IMF is talking about. But for me, within our context, the cost of living is probably the biggest issue. How do you afford your breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How do you send your kids to school? How do you afford your fuel? How do you afford our good friends' rates, NAWEC, in terms of cash power that you buy? Those bread and butter issues, economists tend to put a lot of importance to, because they have serious ramifications for the economy in terms of social stability.